Well, talked to the team just now about not only the outcome of the game, um, but growth moments in the game. I felt like there was a lot of things that occurred in the game today where we can draw from. And I started with handling the emotions of the game. Okay, because again, emotions have consequences, and but you learn from it. And so, what I also told them was there was a rally um, in the second half. There was momentum in the second half, and this group never quit. Before the game and in the prep, we talked about Baylor's ability to rebound the ball, and that was a key stat. And how do you contain them? How do you stop them? You stop them with second chance opportunities, and they had 21 second chance wins, and I think that was a momentum drive for them as well as transition. Um, but these are things we can go back, and these are things that before we get to Kansas, we can work on rebounding. And it's all five to the defensive glass. It's everybody. It has to be a group effort. But I just thought I thought our group competed, but competing, but also being intentional about what we need to do, all has to go hand in hand. But I thought it was a lot of growth moments for us tonight.
Hey, Coach, can you take me through what has happened in the altercation in the second quarter, resulting in 3 ejections at the same level?
Well, I didn't see it. I got to go back and see it on real time. But what they explained to us was obviously there was an altercation um, with our player, Kennedy Fauntleroy, and then their player, number 5. And that was a double technical, which resulted in the ejection. And then it was 2 players that left the bench that also got ejected. And again, growth moments where we had talked about that. You don't do that. But I haven't seen it, so I don't obviously know what happened. That was just the explanation, obviously, from class.
And can you also explain to me how they're looking to keep their composure going forward, and especially gaining their confidence, as you guys mentioned?
Well, again, they're players. I mean, they're they learn from it. They move on. We didn't hang our head in the second half. This isn't indicative of who Kennedy is. I mean, it got a little spicy. Now we need her. We needed her, right? We needed them in the second half for sure. But you learn from it and you move on.
Coach, how difficult was it in the second half after you lost those 3 players? I mean, a few big players on the team.
Players.
How
It's huge. I mean, a credit to the players that stepped up. You had some players playing out of position. They gutted it up, right, where Kennedy Fauntleroy could have come in and given a little relief. Jai Levette could have come in and given relief. Heavenly Greer could have come in the second half and helped us for sure on the boards. So that hurt us, but, my hat goes off to the players that continue to play and continue to fight.
This is the second game in a row now where your guys' opponent has gotten off to a quick start in the first quarter, and then you guys have to try and crawl back into the game. What is it going to take moving forward in this conference for you guys to come out the gates hot and be competitive early so that when you're winning the quarters late, you can actually win?
Well, I think it's just coming out of the locker room ready and locked in to scout. No team you want to spot in this league, 5, 10, 12 points, because again, that gives them momentum, and now it's an uphill battle. But I think it's just honestly locking in right out of the locker room and being ready to go.
And then we saw you guys, there were a ton of diving for loose balls and a lot of effort plays in that second quarter before the altercation. How moving forward are you guys going to kind of tiptoe that line between playing with passion and not letting something like that happen?
Well, again, we're gonna max out on the floor, right? So we talk about 50-50 balls and winning the hustle plays and making the extra effort plays. That's just who we are, right? And sometimes when you go right, it gets tangled up. You can't shy away from competing hard. Both teams are competing hard and both teams want to win. But again, it's just managing emotions and just making sure we stay together when that happens.
Tana, even being shorthanded like Coach was talking about, I mean, you were looking to push the ball more in the second half. It looks like the offensive was flowing better. What was your kind of feel of the offense in the second half?
I just thought that the other team, they wasn't really getting back in transition well, and Coach A pointed that out. So that was just one of the key points we talked about, just pushing the ball hitting up the floor a little bit more, running our lanes, and not jogging beside them just to get us some quick, easy looks.
And then, Ty, from your perspective, what is the ceiling for this team moving forward in conference play, and what do you guys need to do to reach that?
You said the ceiling?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the goal is always to win the championship, so the standard is the standard, so that's what we need to be at. That's what we need to reach to reach that goal. So.
Coach, it wasn't just at the start of the game. Coming out of halftime to the first quarter and the third quarter were your weakest of the game compared to the second and the fourth. Is it just like a mental thing coming out of the breaks, or why do you think that is?
I don't know. Right. I don't know, and that's something we'll continue to talk about, right, and keep them focused. And in halftime, or while we're watching edits, we're showing clips, but it's just really focusing on it and not letting it bog them down, but making them aware that we got to get off to a good start, and it could be obviously in practice, start of the game, start of the third, whatever we can do to simulate it as best as we can. But at the end of the day, it's go time, and we don't need to be reactive. We need to be proactive, and that's right at the tip.
Ty, to kind of piggyback off that, just how do you feel as a player, that you guys could get better at the start of the first and third?
We just got to come out with a type of intensity, the same intensity we have towards the end of the game, instead of trying to fight back. We should just come out the gate with that energy. Obviously, everybody see it. It's kind of starting off a little bit slow, so we got to come together and figure that out as a team. Just whatever we can do to start off the game better.
You mentioned the second chance points that they had, and it looked like they were, even from the start early in the game, they were pushing the ball, really trying to get in transition against you guys. How much then, when you lose players, given what happened, is that?
Well, I think it matters, right?
Make it that much harder.
Well, because again, now you don't have the subs, if you will, to give Ty a break, to give Ice a break, to give Jazzian a break. So not having, being shorthanded, two guards, one forward. I mean, that matters in the tempo and pace that we both want to play. I mean, and we pressed. You saw us press a lot in the second half. That's going to wear them out, but it didn't. And so for me, just that competitive fight, they could have felt sorry for themselves. They could have hung their head, but they didn't. If anything, it ignited them even more. So as a coach, you look at that fire and you look at that fight. And so bottle that up and start with it, right? Start and lead with that, and then you can sustain it. So it was just next woman up, and they were ready. So that they didn't hang their heads in that moment.
Coach, on Wednesday, you talked about how you don't really believe in moral victories, but what are you going to try and have the team take away from tonight going into this road trip?
Well, there's so much. I mean, our competitiveness, our fight, we work on rebounds. You take away some of those second chance opportunities, it's a ball game. And so that is a stat that we can fix quickly. But I loved our ball movement in the second half. We have firepower offensively. I just think you take the fight that we competed with, again, for 3 quarters, and we got to find the fourth. So I think it's more about what we need to do, highlighting the things that we did well. I loved us in our 1-2-1-1 press, right? We hadn't done that one lately. We had been working on that. So we turned them over a lot. And so those are a lot of key things that we can take with us to Kansas. But for us, it's just fine-tuning the boards, boxing out, getting off to a better start, all things that we can control before we get on that plane to go to Kansas.